Hello and welcome back to the No Dig Norfolk Gardener. And today is our October 2022 veg garden update. Now, October here in Norfolk has been quite wet at times, but it's also been really mild and the sun has shone. So ideal conditions really for vegetables to grow. In fact, the kind of conditions that we wanted back in July and August when we had no rain, all sunshine, and the ground was parched. But you'll see, as we go around the veg garden, everything has recovered really well and it's looking absolutely stunning. Also, there's a couple of harvests that myself and Mrs. W need to take today. We want something to go with our evening meals. Here we are in bed 1. Now, the only thing left in bed 1 now at the moment is the carrots that we sowed. Well, initially we sowed them last June. And then we had to re-sow some in July simply because germination was so poor with all the really hot temperatures and lack of water that either fell out of the sky or we were able to give them. But they've recovered well, and the ones that we sowed afterwards, they're now getting to a good size now and growing nicely, so hopefully we shall begin to start harvesting them as we get into November. The ones that did germinate initially, he says, oh, you know, they're of a good size now. This is our variety Eskimo. We've been growing those for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's difficult to see this ever moving away from this particular carrot. Now, bed 2. This is full of brassicas. Lots of lovely brassicas. I've got cabbages growing here. They're going to be available for us. Well, they're probably available now, but they're a variety called Ormskirk. They will hold in the ground really well. I don't want to particularly start eating those until next month, probably later next month and into December, because we have so many other things that are ready to eat at this time of the year. One such thing is our cauliflower, and this one is now ready for us. This is a variety called Autumn Giant, and it's never let us down, always produces good harvests. And because we didn't sow them all at the same time along the row, they're at various different stages. So where I'm standing now is where the first one came out. That came out about a week or so ago. And this one is now ready, and I do want a bit of cauliflower with our evening meal. So let's cut this. So let's take off some of the outer leaves, because our lovely bantams are going to love that. And then I'm going to leave the rest on, as Mrs. W will decide what we are going to keep on there and what we're going to cook, because we do to cook some of these leaves. These leaves are perfectly edible along with the actual florets. Now, next door to me, we have another cauliflower which is called Triumphant. And the leaves have already turned themselves in, so they're protecting what they're now going to start producing in there, and this should start to produce its cauliflowers anytime from late November through December and into January. Can you see how they've really wrapped themselves around there and that's to protect the curd as it starts to grow. As we always like to say with all of your brassicas, do keep an eye on them. You know, have the nets up every few days, see where they are, because they can very quickly go from this, which is lovely, but it won't be very long before these curds suddenly are up here and have risen. And that's something you really don't want. They'll go bitter, they're not so nice, and after all that while of growing them, you fail to get something really lovely to eat. Now, I know that you have heard me talk about the Romanesco. Now, we haven't been always overly lucky with these, but actually we have got some Romanesco that are starting to come. There we go, there's one right in there now starting to produce. So even more lovely food for us. And all the while those leaves are wrapped around there, just like with the cauliflowers. That's a growing away, and that middle will just keep continuing to grow. But the moment you do see all those leaves, suddenly they're open and saying, hello, look at me. That's when you harvest them. Regardless of the size, get them out there. Otherwise, what you have to eat in a week after that won't be very good at all. Now, beyond that are our sprouts. Clearly they're not ready yet, but they have got buttons on them, and they'll probably feature for us next month as we go into November, and as we do the next tour in November. You'll start to see those, but I can assure you there's some nice buttons starting to form on there, and it's not going to be long before they are ready. So bed 3, there's actually nothing ready there for us to harvest at this moment in time, but there are cauliflowers, a variety called Snow March and Owlsmere. They're doing really well, especially as myself and Mrs. W got all the pests off them. The caterpillars from the white butterfly, the new leaves that have grown are looking really, really good. So confident that we can get those to a harvest next year when they're due. Next to those is where we planted our outdoor garlic and our outdoor shallots. It was only about a couple of weeks ago that they went in, so I haven't shooted yet, but that's nothing unusual. And then you join us here in bed 4. Now, you'll know because you've seen 2 or 3 times that we have parsnips down here. They're available for us. I shan't harvest one today, but firstly we don't need one, but you've seen me harvest a couple of parsnips already from no dig, so you know how well they can grow here. However, what I did just want to show you was the Calabrese, and I've said to you about the Calabrese, about how they're coming on really lovely, and I also explained how at this time of the year we do leave them in the ground because they produce little shoots. And if we can just come in a little bit closer here, it's already starting to happen. You can see there's some Calabrese starting to form there. And all over these plants they will start to shoot from where the leaves meet the stalk, and another one starting to come there, and another one there. So yeah, we shall have some what I call bonus harvests. However, we do need to start thinking about harvesting our Calabrese. We already had the first 2 heads, but if you look here where I am, this one, it's ready for its harvest now. Yeah, if we leave that any longer, that's not going to be good.
Wow. It's as big as a football.
It is, isn't it?
It is.
And without splitting, that's fine. It's not split, it's not risen to flower, you can't see all the yellow flowers all over them, so it's looking really, really good. They really have been fantastic. Just to finish up in bed 3, you can just see there that our purple sprouting broccoli are growing away nicely, and At the beginning of the video I said to you how the lovely mild temperatures, a good mixture of sunshine and rain, and look how those plants have come on. They're really getting away, and Rudolph hopefully will start giving us some spears towards late December through into January and February. They don't call it Rudolph for nothing. And then of course we've got our follow-on crop from that, the one that will follow on from that, which is claret. So really happy about that. And then we got just the other side of these, you won't get such a good picture of, but they're now starting to get their hearts. These are cabbages, and this is Winter King, and that'll be ready and available for us as we get to the turn of the year into January and February. So there are cabbages for then. Now here in bed 5, in the last video you saw us harvest the first leek of the season. We've had a couple of others since then. They're growing away really nicely. They're getting to a good size. And the longer they stand here, the bigger they will get, the larger they will get. The same with the Celeriac. Just looking amazing. Now, isn't this just amazing? It's still going. Mind you, we haven't had any frost yet here in Norfolk yet. They will start to come as we get into November, but this lovely French marigold is still going away. And one of the things that we're already doing with some of the others that are in the garden, but yeah, make sure you do get those seed heads. If you got flowers in your garden and you really like them, something like this, you think, oh, that's the colour I really like, make sure you harvest those seeds, because then in that way you'll be able to ensure that you get the right colour flower that you want the following year. And here you join us in the greenhouse, and the greenhouse the same as the polytunnel. If you remember a couple of videos back, we planted things in here that we could be either eating now, or at least going into autumn as we go into November, or things that will give us a harvest a bit later next year. Now the radishes is coming on really quite nicely. They're not ready to eat yet, but they're starting to get there. They are starting to fatten up. They're enjoying life in there, the same as the spinach beside them. And they're now getting their leaves. And so hopefully as we head in through the back part of this year and into the new year, we just have some nice spinach that we're going to be able to harvest, and we'll be able to continue harvesting that right up until we need the space to grow. I think it's either peppers or the chili peppers that are going in here. Mrs. W will know. Chilies. They're chili peppers. And then of course the shallots, we've got those in there. They obviously haven't shooted yet, but again they will give us some fresh onion taste next May and June, before our main crop carrots are ready. And then what's really good is that the carrots are starting to germinate that we put in here, and these are a nonce type, and if you remember in the polytunnel we put some chantenay carrots in there. So yeah, everything is starting to germinate. That's good, that's great, and this is exactly what I wanted. Exactly when they'll be ready I don't know, but we'll find that out together as we go into the new year. The spring onions, yeah, looking great, just as I would expect. Garlic has not poked its head through the ground yet, but again, garlic, sometimes you can wait 2 or 3 months before you see the green leaves. So again, not overly worried about that. And then the pak choy that we put in here, look how they've come on. Only been in here a week or so, and they're coming on really lovely, both the red and the green. So it's not going to be too long before we're going to be able to have some harvests of the pak choy. So that is the state of play here in our veg garden. There's still plenty to eat, and these will store happily for the next week or two in our fridge. And do let us know what your harvests are looking like and how things are going in your garden. We do love to get your comments, and we love to hear how things are going elsewhere in the country and indeed around the world. We have viewers from all over the world really that send us comments, and it is really nice to hear from you all. Sometimes because it's a different way of gardening, it might be where you live and what your climate is like. Other times it's because you have different methods of how you grow things, and I always think that, you know, to hear about those and to, you know, it enriches your knowledge of what you can do and what you can't do. Please do leave your comments down below for us to read, and we shall do our best to get back to you on those as soon as we can. Now, we are actually approaching the end of October. That means Halloween is coming around. Thankfully, there was nothing too spooky or scary in the garden. However, I do think my grandson is up to something, and there could be something quite frightening in the garden by the weekend. Now, I do hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give us a thumbs up. And yeah, it will be Halloween this weekend, so that must mean the next video will be your garden jobs for November. Hasn't this year flown by? We shall see you next time.